1 year ago, I stood at this podium and I called for an independent Palestine. I believed then and I believe now that the Palestinian people deserve a state of their own. Now, I have made it clear that the United States government had nothing to do with this video, and I believe its message must be rejected by all who respect our common humanity. It is an insult not only to Muslims, but to America as well. For as the city outside these walls makes clear, we are a country that has welcomed people of every race and every faith. We are home to Muslims
all right,
who
turn
worship.
it off because I'm ready to throw up, and I ate 3 hours ago. We have the most spineless, dangerous president in American history. He goes before the United Nations, an assembly of anti-American jackals, including Hitler. Ahmadinejad is the Hitler of our time. And he has the nerve to crawl on his hands and knees before these third world, well, shall I say losers? That's the wrong word. These third world gangsters in the UN. These third world gangsters sit there in their silk suits, enjoying the 25% that we, the American taxpayer, to keep them in their silk suits and their prostitutes on the Upper East Side. And our president goes there and begs them to forgive him for a video when the video had nothing to do with the violence in the Middle East. The violence in the Middle East was created by Obama himself. He miscalculated. He thought by appeasing the Muslim world they would love him. Instead, they killed our ambassador, and thus far he's done nothing about it except crawl on his hands and knees in front of the third world individuals in the United Nations. But it gets worse, and much worse, believe me. CNN, as you well know, is the most shameful of all of the left-wing networks. This guy who I call the slimy limey, Piers Morgan, invited me on the show several times. I've rejected him every time because I distrust him. He's a lizard, and I happen to like reptiles. But this is a slimy reptile of the lowest order. He had Hitler on his show last night. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad Hitler was on Piers Morgan, and I want you to listen to what this lowlife asked the most dangerous genocidal maniac on the planet. Listen to clip 1.
How many times in your life, Mr. President, have you been properly in love?
I'm in
love with all of humanity. I love all human beings.
That might be the best
But in
answer I've
particular,
ever
I
had to that
love
question.
members of my own family, of course, like any other human being.
That's probably the best answer I've had to that question. You can't beat the whole of humanity.
That's Piers Morgan with his fake British accent having Hitler on his show and asking him how many times has he been in love. Not why have you made genocidal statements? Why do you want to kill the Jews on this planet? I would say shame on you, but you know who I say shame on? The stockholders of CNN. Because if I own one share of the holding company of CNN, which I believe, who is it? Is it Time Warner? Who owns CNN? Anyone in this America, in our country, who would let this piece of slime reinvent Hitler at a time like this, when a genocidal maniac make no mistake about it, Ahmadinejad is going to do what he says he's going to do the minute he has the power to do so. Now, Ahmadinejad comes to New York, which has the largest Jewish population on the planet outside of Israel, and he's going to give a speech on the Day of Atonement, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar tomorrow, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, which is, I don't know, the equivalent in the Christian calendar of Easter Sunday. It would be like going to say, I'm going to kill all Christians on Easter Sunday. In some ways, you may say that Ahmadinejad is making it easy for Israel to strike Iran as soon as possible. The world will actually cheer if they did so. They will cheer behind the scenes, never in front of the scenes. But nevertheless, the UN stands for a place where there should be no racism expressed. And yet we have a genocidal maniac repeating the rhetoric of Adolf Hitler. Hitler was smarter than Ahmadinejad. Hitler never even said what Ahmadinejad said, and look what Hitler did. Now, here's a man who said he's going to kill all the Jews in Israel. He's going to wipe them off the planet. I have an Italian friend who says to me, just this morning, Michael, he says to me, I don't understand Jewish people. How do they vote for Democrats when Obama stabs them in the back? I said, you ask them the question. The next time you serve them a plate of spaghetti, don't ask me. Because I have no answer for liberal Jews. I have no idea why they would support a Democrat ever again. Now, Ahmadinejad went further in one of his speeches, and he said that Israel is first he said Iran's been around for 6,000 years or more, which it has been. Of course, he had nothing to do with the creation of Persia. He would have you believe he created Persia. But most Iranians I know call him a Turk, not even an Iranian, incidentally. But that's a separate story. Ahmadinejad is to Iran what Hitler was to Germany. Hitler was an Austrian, and they say Ahmadinejad is really of Turkish descent. He's not really an Iranian. And yet he is making the Iranian people an embarrassment on the planet. He then went on to say that although Iran has been around 6,000 years, which it had been as Persia, of course, it has been a great nation until, of course, the mullahs stole it from the people with the Iranian Revolution caused by Jimmy Carter. He then said Israel has no history in the Middle East. Israel didn't even exist, he said, before 70 years ago. And it has no relationship to the area in which it exists. Well, I'll remind the genius from Iran that Jordan was created in 1946. The United Arab Emirates was created in 1971. Some other Muslim nations that were created recently are Pakistan, created in 1947, Brunei, 1984, Bangladesh, 1971, Bahrain, 1971. But you don't hear people getting up at the UN saying Pakistanis have no connection to Pakistan and the nation should be wiped off the planet. Yet, once again, Hitler is back, singling out Jews and the Jewish nation, not only with a lie, the big lie, but saying he's going to kill all of them. And our president goes to the UN and doesn't say one word about any of these things. Instead, he begs this band of gangsters in silk suits who live out of the American taxpayers' hard work, and he begs the audience of gangsters at the UN to forgive him for the video, when we all know the video had almost nothing to do with the blow-up of the Arab Spring, which is Obama's greatest failure, and he has many failures.